Social media allows people from all over the world to communicate and gives us the opportunity to connect with people we would most likely never meet without the internet. Among millions of such users was the heroine of this story, Ashlyn Black. A 25-year-old girl who loved fashion and outdoor activities, who enjoyed vintage stores, hiking and listening to the music of Nirvana. She lived in Lethan, Utah in the United States and worked as a caregiver for children who had developmental issues. Her family said she loved being a voice for those who may have had a harder time speaking for themselves, and the job just appealed to her. Ashlyn couldn't wait to be a mother herself. It was something she wanted with all her heart. She was going to take a child from an orphanage, and her family believes that her work as a caregiver influenced her decision. She was kind, patient and friendly, with a loud, infectious laugh that people said made everyone immediately feel comfortable around her. May 23, 2020. Ashlyn was once again browsing through Tinder profiles like so many other people around the world. She soon met a 24-year-old man named Ethan Hunsaker, who had recently become a father and was going through a divorce from his wife and was now renting a house by himself. This couple quickly found common ground and decided to go on a date to some restaurant to drink and have a good time. Around 9 p.m. that same day, Ethan drove up to Ashley's house to pick her up. The couple headed to a local bar where they stayed for about 4 hours before heading to Ethan's house. A few hours later at 3:19 a.m., 911 received a call at 3:19 a.m., in which a man was talking about wanting to kill himself because he had killed someone. The man who called was Ethan, but on the phone he said he didn't even know Ashlyn, didn't know her last name, that he wanted the police to shoot him when they arrived at the house. The police didn't hesitate and arrived on the scene shortly thereafter. They found Ashlyn in one of the rooms lying face down with stab wounds all over her body. The ambulance crew tried everything possible to save Ashlyn, but it was too late. Ashlyn was pronounced dead at the scene. Ethan had wounds all over his body, and it was clear that he was responsible for Ashlyn's death, and his wound was a sign of Ashlyn's self-defense. Ethan said that they spent the evening together that night, came home, slept together, and then just fell asleep afterward. Ethan said that at some point he woke up and something happened in his head. He saw Ashlyn sleeping on his arm and started choking her as hard as he could while Ashlyn struggled. While the girl lay on the floor in a semi-conscious state, Ethan grabbed a knife from the kitchen and knelt down in front of Ashlyn and started stabbing her. He said he watched Ashlyn bleed for about 10 minutes before calling 911. This news spread quickly on the news. Reporters interviewed Ethan's neighbors, and all of them could not believe that something like this could have happened in their neighborhood. One of the neighbors, Austin Coleman, said that he has lived in the area for about 2 years and he can safely say that it is a quiet place where something like this could not have happened. Austin also said that he had met Ethan on the street a few times. They waved at each other a couple times, and Austin then decided that Ethan was not a bad guy. Even before the investigation began, the police realized that the attack was unlikely to have been provoked by Ashlyn's actions. When the police began their investigation, they could not understand Ethan's motives. From the man's words, the date went well and they really hit it off. There was no conflict between them. But lo and behold, one moment the couple was sleeping peacefully and the next moment Ashlyn was dead. Ethan soon confessed that he had invited Ashlyn over with the sole intention of killing her. He planned that if Ashlyn decided to spend the night at his house, he would commit the murder. When Ethan was taken into custody without bail, the man was calm and unemotional. Ashlyn became the second such victim in Utah to be robbed of her life after dating Tinder. Black's family called the accused a monster in a statement. Ethan Hunsaker was charged with first-degree murder. To everyone's surprise, Ethan pleaded not guilty to Ashlyn's murder a short time later. As rumors began to spread about what had happened, acquaintances were divided in their opinions. Some of them were shocked by what he had done, while others were not surprised at all. Before the crime, Ethan had been working at the company, and his manager planned to transfer Ethan to a new position and entrust him with one-on-one work with clients. But Ethan's co-workers opposed this decision. They said that Ethan's behavior changed dramatically after his separation from his wife. The man had become withdrawn and no longer paid attention to his work. At first, he was just late for work, and then he stopped showing up for his shifts altogether. After a couple of months of such changes, Ethan was fired after an argument with another female employee. Details of the incident were never released. His entourage says that Ethan made many dark and sinister comments about wanting to hurt and kidnap women. Ethan also often talked about wanting to hurt himself. Ethan's boss said that all of Ethan's co-workers thought of him as an inept simpleton who was always saying something stupid. But as his statements became more and more sinister, everyone found his behavior strange and wanted nothing to do with him. The boss also added that what Ethan had been arrested for did not surprise him at all. A woman named Otham also decided to share her story with the media. She said that just a few weeks before Ashlyn's murder, Ethan started flooding the girl with messages on all social networks, and he didn't stop until he committed the crimes. Otham and Ethan had known each other for about 11 years at that point, having met at their old job. The girl says that this communication started out quite friendly and they often talked during their lunch breaks. Otham stated that she had no romantic interest in Ethan and never gave him any reason to believe they could become anything more than just friends. But in 2019, Ethan started asking Otham out on dates. When the girl turned him down, he didn't stop insisting. Eventually, she started ignoring his messages, but then Ethan started looking for other ways to contact her by sending messages on different social networks. The story would later be covered in the news, and it would reveal that Otham and Ethan had actually known each other since 2009, and for 10 years they were just friends. Ethan only decided to turn their interactions into romantic ones in 2019, and Otham tried to be nice and tried to let him know that she wasn't interested. Otham also revealed that she never felt threatened or that a man was being aggressive. He was just being very persistent, but some gut feeling told her not to take things to the next level with this person. She also mentioned that Ethan had mentioned that he had no friends and no one to talk to, so she had kept in touch, even if it was only by correspondence. When she found out what Ethan had done, she was horrified. She realized she'd known him for 11 years. If she'd ever agreed to go out with him, she'd be in Ashlyn's shoes. She is grateful to her premonition that she escaped such a fate, but she grieves with Ashlyn's family, and it is very hard for her to realize what the girl and her family had to experience because of such a senseless crime. Otham believes that the reason for such an act was Ethan's divorce and his worries. The man had never been seen committing any crimes, and at that moment he just lost his head. The police believe this case is as transparent as possible about the motive and reasons for the crime. They stated that Ethan clearly had homicidal tendencies, and his divorce only drove him to it. The police will have to decide what kind of punishment this man with obvious mental problems deserves. The Black family should get justice because no one was prepared for them losing their daughter over a casual Tinder date. Police will have to look into the case closely to see what kind of punishment Ethan deserves. A spokeswoman for the Utah domestic violence community emphasized the fact that many people on social media blame Ashlyn for the incident, not Ethan. She stated that the victim was not to blame for what happened to her, and people should not forget that. It doesn't matter how they met because it was the perpetrator's own decision to commit violence. Advocates for such victims are concerned that people on social media continue to blame the victims for what happened. It does not matter that they decided to come to such a meeting. They don't deserve to be hurt or killed. The lawyers are sure that there is nothing wrong with dating apps. They give people the opportunity to find each other, and Ethan's actions are completely abnormal and unnatural. Ashlyn's lawyer said that Ashlyn's case proves once again how aggressive men can be towards women who trusted them, and that the blame lies squarely on Ethan because it was his choice to commit the crime. In June 2021, new information about the case came to light. Ethan finally pleaded guilty. To the relief of the Black family, they didn't have to take a plea bargain. Ethan himself pleaded guilty to the murder and to his unstable mental state. Ethan's lawyers insisted that his mental state be taken into account in court. Several doctors examined him and came to the same diagnosis. Ethan was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, recurrent psychiatric disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and severe major alcohol use disorder. Ethan's confession was an important event for the Black family. Ashlyn's attorney said this will move the case toward its conclusion and the nearly year-long pause will finally be over. Despite Ethan's diagnoses, the prosecutor believes the man will still spend the rest of his life behind bars. The prosecutor believes that these diagnoses do not invalidate Ethan's guilt and his condition does not require specialized treatment outside of incarceration. The judge in this case decided that Ethan's condition at the time of the offense did not invalidate his guilt and was irrelevant. So Ethan faced the first of 3 sentencing options: detention, sending him to a psychiatric hospital for 18 months before going to prison, or treatment in a psychiatric hospital with no time limit. Ultimately, in February 2022, Ethan was sentenced to life in prison with 18 months of pre-trial treatment at a Utah hospital. The judge said he hoped Ethan would get the help he needed, but added that was not the main reason he ordered him into treatment. He said he was actually worried about other inmates and prison staff. Worried that Ethan could hurt a lot of people and this move could keep them safe. Ashlyn's mother said they felt the court didn't give Ethan the harsh enough sentence he deserved by giving him treatment and housing. To this the judge apologized, stating that the court's hands were tied for many reasons. Ashlyn's family said the crime was as senseless as it was evil. They told our hearts were broken and our lives forever changed because of the actions of a stranger. The life of a cheerful young girl who was passionate about helping those who could not stand up for themselves was taken away.